Something's confused me for a long time. Living in America, you get used to a phrase that's thrown around a lot, the American dream. But I had no idea what those three words really meant, so I set out on a journey to find out what the American dream is. Hours upon hours of research poured into this, extensive analysis of art and literature. Still, I had nothing, so I turned to my peers. Did they know what the American dream meant?
What is the American dream? What is the American dream? What is the American dream? What is the American dream?
What? No idea.
I was starting to wonder if anyone knew what it meant. So after days, months, years of hard work, I found the answer in a place I'd never have expected it. The answer's literally on Google. Noun. The ideal that every U.S. citizen should have an equal opportunity to achieve success and prosperity through hard work, determination, and initiative. Sounds great. However, this didn't sit too well with me. In my experience as an American citizen, the American dream was just thrown around as a buzzword. In commercials,
I pledge allegiance to the American dream.
in political addresses,
I don't think we can save the American dream. I think we can expand it.
but when it comes down to it, the American dream just isn't that simple. When people are asked what makes our country so great, they usually shoot out a couple of different things. Freedom, equality, guns, opportunity. Opportunity. But does everyone really have opportunity? We could go into all the nitty-gritty details about the discovery of the New World, but I'd prefer to keep things simple. It all started on the eastern coast of North America in 1607. The Jamestown colony was Britain's first permanent settlement in North America, and from there many more people came and new colonies popped up all across the East Coast. These colonies started out as dinky little settlements for either economic or religious reasons, and soon grew complex and formed their own governing bodies and social ideals and culture, all of course still under the sovereign nation of England. But then something interesting happened in the mid-18th century, the French and Indian War. This completely flipped the switch, ending the period of salutary neglect experienced by the colonies. Now England couldn't get enough of them. Taxes were being thrown from left and right, soldiers were getting packed in people's homes without their consent, and when some colonists challenged the redcoats to a good old game of rock in the head, they got shot down. Literally. All of this combined moved English colonists into a conflict known as the American Revolution, inspired by ideals from the Enlightenment, which ultimately led to the formation of what we know today as the United States of America. America was founded on the basis of the ideas that came from the Enlightenment, an intellectual movement in Europe and America during the 1700s. John Locke was super influential and came up with a funny little phrase that a couple of guys would take personally. Life, liberty, and property. Then all these guys with funny-looking wigs came together and decided that what was important to them was representation, equality, and being protected from a tyrannical government, which prompted them to write down some stuff that they thought would help with that. Thomas Jefferson expressed those perfectly in the Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 911, what's my emergency? One of the founding fathers committed plagiarism. These were the rights for all men, or should I say, white, male, landowners. So from the very beginning, a large majority of people weren't given access to the American dream. Representation is key to opportunity within the American democracy. This can be seen in the disdain of British taxes because of taxation without representation. Don't get me wrong, representation in government is awesome. It's just hypocritical when you fight an entire war over it and then deny that right to a lot of people. The reason why representation is integral to the American dream is because other people won't protect you. A person can't rise through the ranks if they have roadblock after roadblock in their way. Political power gives American citizens the ability to vote on the issues which affect them or the people they care about in order to protect their communities and improve their qualities of life. In other words, if you can vote and maintain some level of political influence, you can assure that your basic human rights are taken care of. The problem is that throughout history, representation has been denied to many people on the basis of the characteristics that define their identities. Don't believe me? Emancipated African Americans in the 19th century couldn't vote anywhere in the South, and in the North, voting rights were rare and unstable. In Pennsylvania, 1838, one of the few places where they had the right to vote, the state constitution was amended, taking that away. No representation and few allies meant that Black Americans lived in destitute conditions and worked the most menial of jobs. African American voting rights weren't given until the 15th Amendment, which states, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude." However, through literacy tests, poll taxes, and fraud, the vote was still hard to achieve, not just for Black citizens, but also many other marginalized groups. The so-called unalienable right was also kept from women. Women's suffrage wasn't achieved until the 20th century through the 19th Amendment. Just because women gained the right to vote, it didn't mean that women were able to be independent. The roadblocks for women were things like inability to divorce her husband, get a safe abortion, have access to birth control, own property, and receive a real education. The right to vote meant nothing without the ability to act according to a female's own will, which she couldn't. Women were still dependents of their husbands and fathers. Though some exceptions were brought about through industrialization and westward expansion, women's ability to improve their own standing was stinted, and to this day, women's rights are shaky. This goes to show that American opportunity has historically not been available or been blocked from specific groups of people. Though many of these events happened in the far past and have made massive improvements in recent years, the ghosts of American prejudice still linger in plain sight. Sometimes, no matter how hard you work, you can't win if a system is rigged against you. All of this isn't to say the American dream is dead. It's not. In fact, it's very much alive. What we seem to forget is that it's called the American dream, meaning it's a goal, something we're working towards. Even in the definition, it's stated as an ideal. The American dream is what would make the U.S. the perfect version of itself. Maybe the Founding Fathers purposely left some people out when setting things up to give the country something to work toward together. As a people, it's often said that working together to achieve a goal, such as the American dream, can be a uniting factor. Imagine the United States striving together to make our nation a place where anyone of any background can make something of themselves solely based on their own merit, without hindrance from any outside source. Personally, I think this gives those old guys too much credit, because they were most definitely just racist. But hey, it's a thought. Let me leave you with this. While the U.S. isn't perfect and has many flaws today relating to its marginalizing tendencies, the climate we live in today is the most nurturing for growth as a nation to strive to improve itself for our future Americans, to live in a country where maybe they can finally live the American dream.
What is the American dream?
That my daughter would get her homework done before 10 o'clock the night before it's due.